this afternoon. We start by looking at the performance of the All-Share Index of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and other basic indicators last week. For last week, the All-Share Index was down 2.7%. Market capitalization was down 2.74%. Volume of trade, because you need to measure the volume, that is the quantity of shares that were sold, the quantity of shares that were bought. That also declined by 36.88%. Deals, which tells of the number of times those volumes actually came in. One broker, two brokers, three brokers, and then the number of times they all bidded or offered, the ones that the machines actually captured. The deals actually came down, went up by 10.13%. Value, talking about the totality of the amount invested in equities on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange last week, was 15.471 billion naira, which was 16.20% below the performance of the previous week. So for last week, the number of gainers were just 25, whereas there were 44 losers, and the number of equities that remained unchanged for last week were 101, well, slightly above what the performance of the previous week was. But again, technically, you see, what we see in the media is that people just dish out these figures. The market went up, came down, but they don't go ahead to explain what those indices, what those indicators actually mean. This is what separates us from others. Now I tell you what those figures that I've just pointed out to you, what they actually mean. Number one, higher number of losers last week actually says that the market was weak. Now we saw also lower numbers of gainers. It just means that more equities are losing, then fewer equities are gaining. That tells you of a weak market. Again, we see a situation whereby the amount invested also was lower in the week under review than the previous week, and then we saw high deals, but then we saw decline in the indexes. What can we bring out from these figures? It means that the market, as we speak, is bearish. One of the signals, one of the indicators of a bearish market is when you see equities that are paperweight actually dominating the gainer start, which was what we saw last week, because of the 25 gainers that were recorded on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange at the end of trading activities on Friday, the 22nd of June 2018. There were about maybe 4 or 5 high-profile equities, and when you talk about these high-profile equities, they are not so. They include Okomo Oil, they include Presco, and a few others like that. But when you now come to the gainers chart, that is where you begin to see equities like Dangote Cement. When you see Guarantee, you see FBNH, you see Zenith, and you see Access Bank PLC. So which suggests that as we speak, the market is weak. The sellers are still selling, and then those that are buying are a little bit wary. Now, what are the possibilities in the market for this week? All right, now we look at those equities that gained last week. They include Japan, San I Leasing, NEM Insurance, Mutual Benefits, Sovereign Trust Insurance, and all these are just paperweight. They are low-profile equities that are listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Like I said earlier, these are just simple indicators, simple facts depicting the truth that, as we speak, the bear is dominating. So I go now straight to the possibilities in the market this week. From what I can see, that the index might close weak today, because as at the close of trading session on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Friday, there were not many excess bids that were recorded, most equities actually closed on offer, or that they just closed flat. But again, at any point in time, the market will always do what it intends to do. The market has opened already. All right, in a couple of minutes from now, I will be calling on Aruna and we'll be looking at the market together. But generally, for this week, market is tending towards 36,975 index point. And also, we should expect low-profile stocks to still continue to dominate gainers list, even as this week eventually we round off trading activities for the quarter and the first half of 2018. Well, high-profile stocks are not expected to record significant losses because those that are selling are still selling. So when those prices attempt in any way to move up a little bit, those bargain hunters will rush to the market and sell. So 1 or 2 days, irrespective of the low possibilities in the index movement, are expected this week. All right, so let's look at the stocks to watch. Meanwhile, you will get the detail of these stocks to watch on the pages of Stocks Watch weekly newspaper. Now, the first, of course, we have about 10 and we have the reasons, but when you get the paper, you will read all in it. We really can do very little here on the television because we really do not have so much of time in our hand. Now, Access Bank, all right, Access Bank looks flat at open, all right, but again, it closed well on Friday. If you look at the price at which Access is currently selling, that is about the price it will get to, and it will go back up again. So buying at this level, there are not much of stress. Africa Prudential Registrar, African Prudential PLC, though the managing director has announced, has been moved to a sister company, United Capital PLC, but it lost marginally last week, 1.89%. But again, 1.72%, sorry, was the loss in Africa Prudential last week. And looking into the operations of the organizations and the possibilities, watch out for Africa Prudential PLC. Watch out for CCNN. It is one of the best gainers so far so good this year, and one of the factors that separates CCNN from others is the simple truth that one, the outstanding number of shares is very few. Number two, the shareholding distribution is also very positive. Dangote flour, Dangote sugar. Why not? The owner of this and the majority shareholder is the richest man in Africa. So when the price of Dangote cement, Dangote flour, Dangote sugar rise on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, what we also expect to see is that Dangote is becoming richer, and that is one of the wisdom in equity investment. Now we all know who the richest man in Africa is, and so, well, maybe if you just buy into some of the equities that are making him the richest man in Africa, maybe you also will become richer, right? So that is for Dangote sugar and Dangote flour. But looking at the indicators of these equities, they are looking positive. All things being equal for this week. The big elephant, LBNH, watch out for it. Watch out for Fitsin Pharmaceutical, one of the most vibrant pharmaceutical company listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And when you talk about infrastructure and facility and capacity, Fitsin Pharmaceutical actually has that. Of course, there is the news that they are coming to the market to do right issue. That also, from what we got to hear, is going to be underwritten. So if you go to buy now, though we do not know when the cutoff date is going to be, you can partake of the right issue that is going to hit the market not long from now. But again, we expect the price of the right issue to be lower than the current price of the stock on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Jais, Guarantee, and Zenith are all other equities you can watch out for this week. We move straight now to the African market of the 17 stock markets across the African continent that we covered in the week under review, only 4 of them, namely Tunisia, Egypt, Uganda, and Mauritius, actually ended in the positive region, with Tunisia emerging as the highest gainer in the week under review with 2.79%. Every other market aside one actually closed in the red within the week under review. Now, talking about these markets across the African continent, talking about Tunisia, talking about Egypt, 2 North African countries leading the rest of markets across the African continent. Of course, when you read Stocks Watch Weekly newspaper for today, you are going to see the factors and the reasons behind these 2 markets. As we speak, in Tunisia, there are 2 index that grew 2.79%, and year to date has grown about 27.05%. It's one of the best in Africa. The country's central bank in the last 3 quarters increased rates, which currently stands at 5.75%. According to the Central Bank of Tunisia, the rates were increased as groundwork for solid economic growth going forward. And when you talk about the Egypt market, where the index, the EGX30, was the second best in Africa for last week, we saw that they came to the market, the global market, for funding this year. It was successful, and also AFDP also was reported to have approved the sum of $500 million to support the budget of that country. Now, having said all this, let us now get set to do a second to none Forex analysis. We already have in the house 2 friends from Hantech Global. The first is Mike Fowokwe and his partner. I will be right back. Don't change the television dial.